Hello, my friends. I'm going to kind of share a couple different things here, and one of the things is a continuation of what I was speaking about in the last video. And I feel that there really is. It's come to a point in time where there's just no time left. There's no turning back at this point. I think everybody has begun to realize that. But there's no turning back, and there's no way out of this for man. Everything that is happening in the world, there is not a way out of it for us. It requires intervention. We've hit that point where we have so many different things all tied together at the same time, such as the weaponry that we possess. We know about nuclear weapons and all of that, but we don't even really know the extent of what the countries have actually produced since nuclear weapons were made. They probably have things far worse than that. We've hit the point technologically where we are at the mercy of those things withheld from God. Other things that are happening, especially in the West, but really all over the world's become dependent on other people. In other words, no more is somebody self-sufficient. They don't grow their own things. They don't make their own things. Everybody, the whole world is tied to an economy. And once everything is connected, where you depend on anybody other than yourself and your homestead to survive, you've set yourself up to be destroyed, because once that's taken away, you have no means to do it yourself. We've hit that point where there's no going back. The next place that we go back is to be completely wiped over and start again, just like it has cyclically since the beginning of time. But at this very end of the time, not even that happens, as everything is changed, and everything changes in the twinkling of an eye for those who will go with the Lord, while the world is completely destroyed from the wrath of the Lamb, ending and starting anew, but in a different earth, in a rebuilt earth in heavens for the millennial reign. But those things are to come. But I really get into this, what I'll say after this, because of different things that I feel in the Spirit. And as long as I've walked with the Lord, it's been 6 years since I was born again and began walking with Him every single day. No, the Lord doesn't take days off. If you know Him, just like being married to somebody, you see your spouse daily. He doesn't take days off. He's with you all the time, even whenever you don't always feel Him. He'll give you space whenever you need space. I've had many different times in my walk where my physical body can't handle the walk that I'm going through, and He'll give me some space with those things and then come back after I've refreshed. It's almost like having a Sabbath internally. These different things happen as you walk with God, but you're with Him every single day, and whenever you get to know Him and you get to know all of the things and see all the things happening in the world, it's come to this point in my spirit. I just know there's just no time left. There's very little time to recognize things. Everything is going to be sped up and hasted, and even that, even if it wasn't, there's still no time left. And it's very important that you yourself know who you are, which that is the most important thing, because once you know who you are, then you will know that God is in you. And when you know God is in you, you will get to know God, which knowing is the requirement to receive the reward. The rapture is a reward, or Jesus would not have said it was. It is a reward. And the reward is only given to those who know Him. As He said to the one taken and the one left, the ones that are left, I never knew you. Whenever Jesus returns, that is exactly what's going to happen to those who know the Word of God, who may be saved, but they don't actually know Him. And you can tell by their words that they don't know Him, because if you know Him, you know the heart of the Lord is different from the things that they say He is. And this happened to the Jews 2,000 years ago. The Messiah stood in front of them and they didn't recognize Him because He did things differently than what they expected. The church today does exactly the same thing. Jesus does things differently than what they expect. And it's because they didn't get to know him whenever they had that opportunity. But there's very little time left for any of that. And that's why I kind of make this in haste, so that you examine yourself and examine your own walk with God. And do you actually know his heart or not? Can you hear something? Can you look at something? And know that your thoughts and your feelings about it are not your own, but they're his. If you can answer that question honestly and say, I know it's God, I feel that spirit, I know what's right and wrong because I know his voice, you have no concern in this world about what happens tomorrow, for God has clothed you with that faith, and you know that your day is approaching of redemption. But if you cannot answer that question honestly and say anything other than I know the Lord and I know his heart, then the chances are that you don't know the Lord and his heart. You may know the word, you may listen to people speak the word, and you may understand things about God from a distance. But if you have any thoughts that you're not going to be rescued by God because you know him and you're a child of his, if you think at all that you're going to miss that rescue, it's because you will miss that rescue. The Lord has put that thought, that feeling into you because you're lacking something, you're missing something. And that something is knowing him and his voice, to actually get to know him so that he saves you. And salvation is different than rapture. When I say save you, I am speaking only to the rapture, the things that will happen in the world after it, saving you from that bodily destruction that the world will go through. If you are aware of knowing God, if you know his heart, you are a child, you will be rescued from that. But if there's any inkling in your spirit that you don't know that answer for sure, that inkling is there, so that whatever remaining time we have left to work, you seek after him. You don't listen to anybody. You don't listen to me. You don't listen to any of these other teachers. You go right to God and you seek him out until you find him. And he's not hard to find, believe me. When you look at yourself and you truly see the deeds of your hands and you break down by them, no matter how good you think you are from a distance, when you know your thoughts and your insides and how filthy you are, you'll know God then. But you have to understand that that's a prerequisite to seeing God, is you have to know yourself. And once you know yourself, then all other things are possible after that, because you will see that you are in the image of God, and the thing that you've been seeking the whole time was already within you. You just weren't aware of it yet. So with all of that said, it goes about, we're heading into the time of year here in the West, in the summer, where August is the most common month of the year for marriages to take place. Saturday is the most common day for marriages to take place. So a Saturday in August is the greatest time in the West to be married, the most populous time in the West to be married. And we know that marriage is attached to everything spiritually, and everything spiritually is attached to everything physically. Whenever all these people will give you different dates, saying these dates and this date and that date and this holiday, this feast, that feast, whenever Jesus returns in the rapture, he's taking a bride for himself. It's a marriage. And there are 10 virgins, 5 are foolish, 5 are wise. 5 go into the ark, 5 remain outside of the ark. I never knew you. And everything is related to marriage in the spirit. It means it will also have a physical relation where you'll be able to recognize that. And that's why of everybody that speaks of different days and different feasts and this and that, and Jewish holidays, Jewish calendars, Jewish traditions, all these other things, the biggest day that I look for is a Saturday in August, because that would match physically with the spiritual enough to where you could actually recognize that. And what happens on that day that the Lord actually comes back? and brings the rapture. What happens when we're actually lifted up to him and snatched away, taken away as a bride? There's desolation in the world in that moment. Revelation 18, come out of her, my people, so that you do not partake in her sins. That's New York City that the Lord is bringing reference to as he greatly describes that city. Even a woman holding a cup of abominable things in her hands with a crown on her head. He describes the Statue of Liberty. He's describing a great city where all the merchants go, where all of the economic things go in. He's describing a port city on many waters. He describes New York City to a perfect picture that John saw and was able to write down in Revelation. And that's how you know that's New York City. And what happens there is it is burned up. It's made desolate. And then we had this public service announcement come out from New York City about how to survive a nuclear attack and all of those things, as if that's possible. But these people, they understand in their flesh cries out to them that something is happening, but they refuse to try to even attempt to understand what it is. They have a false sense of security, and that's what Paul described when people say peace and security, sudden destruction comes upon them. All of these things that we do are about peace and security. The vaccines are about peace and security. Everything that we've done with COVID was all about peace and security. And it's a false sense of peace and security. And that's come over the whole world, and it applies to everything that every intervention that we do that goes above a normal means of human survival instinct is about peace and security that can't actually be guaranteed to you. So it's useless in essence. The covering protection of God is much better. But we as humans don't know God, and then we just do all of these crazy things that don't make anything but us slaves of our own systems that we build. But that's just what we do because we're fallen currently. But things are going to change, and that won't be like that in the millennial kingdom. You won't need seatbelts in the millennial kingdom because you fear your death. There will be no death for those who will make it to there from the rapture. But the New York City had that public service announcement. The war with Russia amping up. Terrorists let through the southern border. I mean, we have no idea who comes through that southern border. It's all done intentionally. And God said that's how it would be in the end. For God would raise up all nations to come against America, to come against that promise of Abraham, even raise up from inside of her to destroy her. They all lust for the flesh of America, and they're all coming for her, and they're all in position. We're just waiting for that to happen. But I look at August, and I look at the most popular day for weddings, the most popular month for weddings, and boy, we're almost there. We're in the middle of July. So that's what I'm kind of looking at in the spirit, and it's been confirmed to me in a couple of different ways also. That if you really want a particular time to look for something to happen, look for a Saturday in August. Look for a day in August, and don't look to physical Israel for what God has spoken about Mystery Babylon. Look to Mystery Babylon for what God spoke about Mystery Babylon. And on that day, when that destruction comes and everything is split in half, the wheat separated from the tares, on that day there's great desolation, and there's great revelation, and there's great salvation to those who have eagerly awaited it, the blessed hope that comes for all of us who are seeking that. There's the greatest of rewards about to be handed out. All of the treasure that we've stored up in heaven while we've been here walking, we will receive that treasure in that time, while the world will receive the treasure they stored up here, which will be desolation. Everything that they've thought that they've stored up will be destroyed. And that's what happens on that day. It's a glorious day and a great and dreadful day. It's one and the same day. It's one and the same event, one and the same time. And I see that talk about, the nuclear fears in New York City. Whenever Peter described the end, he described where eyes would melt in the sockets, and that's something like a nuclear blast that we could see. So that's something to look at. You have monkeypox now spreading all in New York City, and before ultimate judgment comes to a land, pestilence is the one thing that God pours onto it. We had it with COVID already, now we're getting it with monkeypox. And in New York City is where the most cases are in the country. I don't know if it is the same in the world or not, but New York City is the front line for this because of all the homosexuality that's there. And it's all coming right in this moment whenever we're expecting something grand to happen there. Revelation 18. God is preparing New York City for this desolation. And he's preparing a people to meet him in the air. And I hear all of these speakers now on kind of along the lines of the video I spoke yesterday about the teachers and how they don't know God, but they claim to know God, and they become the Father's voice by having their pack all say the same things, and they all speak the same ways, and they all speak their own ways. They become the voice of the Father. Another thing that they're doing, all of them, or well, not all of them, but a lot of them are making these rapture prepared kits for those who are left behind. Now, the reason why I have this Bible verse on my phone here, it's to show you something. I'm going to show you why everyone who says that speaks of their own guilt. They're really leaving that rapture kit and whatever they're putting in it, they're leaving that for themselves because they fear losing everything in the world so much that they try to build something so that they have even that little bit of comfort whenever they miss it and the day comes, because that guilt that is deep within them, they don't need to have that guilt. They could let that guilt go, but they're holding on to that guilt because they're holding on to the things in this world, the ways of this world, how we view God in this world. They're holding on to those traditions and all of those things, just like the Jews did. So they're building these kits for themselves as a means of comfort, even though they know it's not going to help them if they miss this. They're still in their mind making it comfort, which is that peace and safety. It's like wearing seatbelts. It's those kinds of things. It's all along the same things, and it happens because of their own guilt that they feel deep down inside that they won't admit to. God, what does he say about worrying about tomorrow? For instance, today is today. When the rapture comes, there will be a tomorrow. It's just a different tomorrow. God says, no one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. That is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food, and your body more than clothing? Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you more valuable to him than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And a lot of these people that make these rapture videos and teach right now, it's because they're worried about their lives. And why worry about your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing, yet Solomon in all of his glory was not dressed as beautifully as they are. And if God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow, God speaking here, Jesus making a direct reference, if you look at it with wisdom, to understand he's talking about the day of the rapture. Everything is here today and it's thrown in the fire tomorrow. He will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith? And that's why I call them out. They have lost their faith. That's why they make their own voice be the Father's. They lost their faith somewhere along the way by trusting in each other rather than walking with God. The little faith, that's what brings this about. And that's why they make these rapture prepared kits, because they don't have any faith. They don't believe in an all-powerful God. And I don't know how else I can show anyone who's listening to me that that is the reality of these people. They don't truly believe he has any power. They're telling you that they're going to make a rapture prepared kit for somebody that's going to be left behind. Do you think God needs your rapture prepared kit to send out his word? Do you think he needs whatever you're going to prepare to leave to somebody that you care for? Do you think God needs you to do that, to protect and save who he's going to protect and save in those days? Do you think God needs you to do those things? And that's the end result of their lack of faith. They believe and trust that they can do something for God that he can't do. They're trying to work their way to him, even though all they'll tell you to do is, you don't got to do no works and be saved. Their biggest thing is they hate works. And it's all because they themselves are trying to work to God to get in that relationship because they don't know him and they don't know how to get to him. And I've told everyone who've listened to me 100 times in these videos, how you get to God, look at yourself and see your own wickedness. See what you've done to people. See what you've thought about doing. See what you as a human being think. See what you say. Look at your own works and what they've done in your life. If you can't repent from that, then you've never seen them. Look at somebody you've loved who you've let down. Look at somebody who you've loved who you've hated. If you don't repent from your own hand's works and see what your own hand does, then God cannot do anything for you because you take his place. You take the place of Jesus on the cross yourself. And thus there is no salvation because you spend the rest of your days trying to work to him and you can't. He comes to you. He doesn't need you to make rapture kits to prepare somebody whenever you're gone. You're making those kits because you don't have faith that you're going. You're trying to give yourself comfort. God will do as he will do after the rapture. And it won't matter what anybody does. None of us now. We don't clothe the lilies in the field. God does. We can't help God in these times. We don't do anything for God. Remember, it is dark. No man can work. There is no more working once the rapture happens. There's nothing any man can do because God himself does it. He sends his two witnesses into the world. He proclaims the gospel with angels. When the rapture happens and the very day after that, no man can work. It will be God and God alone who works. But they don't believe God is all-powerful. They don't believe that God is going to clothe whom he's going to clothe. They don't have faith in his ability and his power, and they don't have faith that themselves are going in the rapture because they're not, because they don't know him. And it's by choice, because they refuse to see who they themselves are and repent of it and agree with God, Genesis 6, that we're sorry. We're truly sorry for what we've all done in this world. I'm in agreement with God the whole way, and he's taught me about what I actually am. I can't get away from things as a human being. I can't. I can try, and I can fail, and I can succeed, and I can win, and I can lose, and I can keep walking. I'm going to fight that good fight until the end. I'm going to try to be as God has made me holy. But I can't. I can't be perfect. I can't make it there because I wear a body of flesh. It's a thorn in the side. But what I can do is rely on God and trust God and have faith in God that what I can't do for me, he will do for me. And he's going to do it all in a twinkling of an eye. And the millennial kingdom is not going to be like this kingdom. It's truly going to be the kingdom that God made for us before the evil one came in and planted tares among the good wheat. That's the kingdom that we're going to have. But we're not there right now. And the only way to get there is to see who you really are inside. And know that the image of God that is within you cries out for who you have become. It's like a father who has a child who goes astray. But that father really did love the child. So when that child went astray, the father every single day thought about that child and thought about the love he had for that child and thought to himself, where did I go wrong? What did I do? He condemns himself because he understands from the tree comes the fruit. He looks at himself and he condemns himself for it. He put Christ on the cross to die for it. That was a father looking at what he made and was sorry for what happened to them. But at the same time, knowing that if that one would just come back, if that one would see that they're living in a situation that wasn't meant for them, that they would turn and be healed of the fruit that they ate along the way from the seed planted by the evil one, come out of it and go back to where our home is with God, the prodigal son. The Lord is coming. He's coming quickly, and there's no more time. There's no more things to do. The gospel is already spread in the world, and we're going to sit here and we're going to keep sharing what we know of God up until the very moment that that ark opens up and we go inside of it. There's no one that's ever going to shut me up from speaking what I know of God, because I want everyone to know God in that way. Anyone should know God in that way. That's what we were created for, to know Him in that way. But not all of us will choose that. And there are so many people speaking out there, leading people into physical destruction that they don't need to enter into. We were not destined to die when we were created. Death came in from Satan, from the fall. Originally, we weren't destined to die. And all man is to die once. That only came on account of Satan. It wasn't in the original plan. But God, being the ever-powerful God that He is, knowing that He's giving us choice, there has to then be a way out of that if we make that choice. And we did make that choice. And we have become filled with knowledge that how would we have ever understood what it means to lose something if we couldn't lose? We couldn't be all-knowing. We were entering into a form of being all-knowing. But we know right now only the evil side of things. We know now only loss. Whenever we truly learn what is good and what is gain, when we truly learn that side of things, then we will completely defeat the plan of Satan to begin with, to separate us from God and to make us lowly. And we will rise above even Satan in power and knowledge and understanding. Because that's our birthright. That's mankind's birthright. It wasn't Satan's. It's not the angels. It's mankind's birthright to become like God. And even now we can get to know Him. And if we know Him now, that's good enough. Because I can't work my way to Him. I can't do anything to make Him do anything. I can only ask as a child. I can only know Him as a parent. I can only understand that voice. And I can only understand and know that voice and know my dad because I first look at me and realize what I am. And realize that's somebody separate from me, even though I come from Him. And then I can get to know Him. And I get to know Him through Christ, who is the bridegroom, who is coming to gather a bride of those who are wise. And anyone who is wise, speaking with wisdom at the end, there ain't a single person doing it unless they know God. So these rapture prepared kits and these people that all talk about them, it's their own guilt that comes out whenever they speak about them. It's their lack of faith and trust in God that He will clothe what they cannot. It's their own comfort and security that makes them feel that they're okay whenever something happens. And it's all because they don't know exactly what's going to happen. They keep trying to build up a false sense of security within themselves. All because they've never fallen to their knees and seen how wicked they are. How wicked the human form is in this fallen state. Not necessarily me being more wicked than anybody else. We're all the same wickedness. We all have the same things in us. This form of human being is evil and wicked, twisted, continuously evil, inventing new ways of evil. That's this form that we currently live in. But that wasn't the form that God made originally. And that's not the form we're going to enter back into at the twinkling of an eye. God bless.